general populace thinks that millennials are lazy, self-entitled, don't want to work, don't want to do shit, when in actuality, we kind of screwed them. They're in a bad position, especially from COVID. I think COVID really accelerated that. You had a COVID situation where there was a lot of money given out, PPE loans, all that stuff, and that was given out to baby boomers who were essentially bailed out, right? Because nothing could be worse than a baby boomer going belly up at the end of their life. So PPP loans, all this money was given, right? The millennials didn't have businesses. They didn't have any way of getting this money. So the older generation gets the money. Then they start dumping it into the stock market. Then there's issues with supply chain. Then all of a sudden commodities go through the roof. Real estate goes through the roof, cars, you name it. So now you have this group of people that if they owned assets and if they owned businesses, they got money, and whatever the value of their assets, their houses went through the roof. Now you have this younger generation that didn't get the benefit of any of that money because they didn't have the businesses and they didn't own houses. Now they want to own businesses and they want to buy houses. On top of that, the rates were really low and then all of a sudden shot up. So now you have this scenario where this entire generation of kids are screwed. They have a ton of student debt. They can't buy assets. Nothing is affordable. And it's just a mess. And the unfortunate reality is, I think it's going to just kind of tick along like this for the next 10 years. And these kids are just in a bad position. You know, yet a lot of people judge them and say they're lazy and don't want to do shit, but we put them in a really bad place.
Now, in modern day, which generation do you personally feel like is the most screwed over out of all of them? Now, think about which generation is actually the ones buying homes, the ones trying to fulfill their careers, actually still believe in the whole career model, possibly going to college, possibly have the most student loan debt. We're talking about the millennial generation, which the large majority of the audience, I know that a lot of you guys watching could definitely relate to this. Is it the boomers' fault? Is it the following generations like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, anything coming after them to fix the situation? Or do millennials have to just tighten up their bootstraps alongside Gen Z and figure it out and juggle so many jobs that our backs will be breaking, our minds will be uninfluenced, and we'll have really nothing left at the end of the day besides still ongoing growing pit of debt where the interest rates are growing high, farther above our wage increases. Now, despite which generation you personally fall into, especially the millennials, I'd love to hear your personal thoughts, opinions down below. Do you personally feel like that the millennials are the most screwed over generation in modern history, possibly in all time in the Western world that we know of? Now, I want to give a huge shout out to him. If you guys check out these videos daily and check out those links down below in the description. Always some of the best ways to support these discussion-based videos that we try to provide here daily amongst the channel. Now, let's begin this generational warfare discussion that we continue to have ongoing.
There's so much talk about, oh, we're going to drive housing prices down. I don't want to drive housing prices down. I want to drive housing prices up for people that own their homes. And they can be assured that's what's going to happen.
The greatest fear that I have regarding the outcome for America of these disclosures is that nothing will change. People will see in the media all of these disclosures. They'll know the lengths that the government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society. But they won't be willing to take the risks necessary to stand up and fight. And the months ahead, the years ahead, it's only going to get worse.
Now, if you look at the stats and the studies, not just how people actually feel when you look at the market or scroll on Zillow when you're late at night having your glass of wine, you know, after trying to forget about the day that you dreaded so much, when you woke up in the morning, having to redo it, restart all again tomorrow when the alarm goes off. Yeah, you know what we're talking about here? We've all been through it. Well, it feels as if that homes are unaffordable these days, unless you have like $500,000, $250,000 to really get in. I know what you're going to say, Josh, the down payments are so much lower. You only need a small percentage. But then you lock yourself into a 15-year, you know, possibly, most likely a 30-year mortgage, and will you potentially have the, you know, the career or the job to maintain that throughout the entirety of that time? Or will that end up bankrupting you over everything? Even once you do pay that off, you still have to pay on the property tax, and we all know how I feel about taxes. I'm not a super big fan. I am an American at the end of the day. I mean that I'm mostly American first. I'm not a super big fan of how we really kind of tax everything. Even when you actually pay off your home, which you're paying so much more interest over the course of that 30 years, excuse me, you're still actually kind of getting screwed over. So is there any way out of this, or will we always be chained to locked into the system? And they'll try to, you know, gaslight us, convince us, rage bait us that, oh, we're actually getting a lot of payoffs. So we're fixing the roads. Public, you know, we got the public education. Don't you want to pay the firefighters? Well, there's a lot of other ways to pay for that stuff, but we're never going to figure that out.
I love capitalism because the only items that get cheaper as we progress as a society are the ones that ensure we remain tranquilized, docile, domesticated debt slaves, like TVs. And literally all of the essentials that we need to survive skyrocket, and they just get put behind a paywall. I love bread and circus. We have it later tonight, and I hope to see you there soon.
The underemployment rate for recent college graduates is 41%. Gen Z is doomed. And the only thing our politicians are doing about it is bombing people 10,000 miles away.
Iran is teaching us that we obviously have to start a revolution because the ruling class in every country is nothing but parasites. And I think millennials are the only generation that can get it done because baby boomers, they love the system. They think the reason things are bad now is because there's too many trans people. Gen X has always been allergic to caring about anything. They haven't really done anything significant since Kurt Cobain. And then Gen Z has always been ruined by the internet. Like, millennials remember getting ruined by the internet. We remember where we were when we saw Two Girls, One Cup. Gen Z's always had some version of Two Girls, One Cup just streaming directly into their brains. Millennials, we're the last ones who remember hope and idealism, and that's what's made us annoying our entire lives. But now it's finally time to channel that annoying Harry Potter idealism into something productive, which is overthrowing the ruling class. So, let's get it done.
Now, believe it or not, if you haven't actually got this through watching any of my past videos or possibly this video so far, I grew up being raised somewhat traditional. My dad was the sole worker, my mom was stay-at-home. She did have a part-time job at a restaurant, being a server, being a waitress, but she never really needed that money. It was more just so she had spending money because my mom liked to shop. That was her addiction. But we all have addictions at the end of the day, and a lot of people kind of dive into their addictions trying to escape life. It's about the escapism factor. And now some people have substance abuse, which can be far worse. Some people have shopping. So despite all the escapism promoted in modern society, if you look towards the media, which we all have absolutely no hope but actually indulging in, it is promoted to escape. And it really is because, it's not really common to want a traditional lifestyle anymore. And if you do, you're kind of the one in the bunch. You're kind of the small percentage of the group. So first, I feel like this is the common reality to be out of the norm, or is being out of the norm normal, and now being what used to be normal different. Kind of a weird way that society changes up. Will it come around in the future? Now, what are your personal thoughts and opinions regarding the generational warfare, the generational divide? Do you think it has to do with home prices, grocery prices, the inflation situation, taxation amongst the youth being given mostly to amongst the past generations that are still around, but will not be around forever? Will this money be kind of transferred into the hands of these generations that are going to be creeping up on these ages? I'm kind of getting up there. I'm starting to feel the age. So, what are your personal thoughts and opinions? Despite which generation you fall into, which tax bracket you sit in, feel free to leave your personal thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. I always love to respond to the ones I see fit. And I want to give a huge shout out to you guys. Check these videos daily and continue to check out those links down below in the description. Always some of the best ways to support me and discussion-based videos that we try to provide here daily amongst the channel. Kind of like that for today. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next one. God bless.